Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Northland Sports Page. We believe we have breaking news right away. Still waiting for it to appear online somewhere, but our connections with Hermantown Hockey seem to see a #1 seed in front of their name for the state tournament.
Big, shiny #1 or 1 star or whatever you want to do. They're sounds like they're going to lead off the tournament.
Well, that would not be the case because if they were the 2 seed, they would lead off the tournament. But if they got the #1 seed, they would be the headliner of Wednesday night primetime, 6 o'clock.
I didn't mean like timing. I mean like they would be leading the way to the tournament. I didn't mean like starting the tournament.
So if this turns out to be true, and with Pat Andrews being one of the supposed sources we think it is, are you a little bit surprised? Because War Road beat Hermantown and still made the state tournament.
Yeah, but the weird East Grand Fork stuff where Hermantown beat East Grand Fork
and St.
like
Cloud
a rented
Cathedral
mule.
getting in there and all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me.
So it's going to be interesting. We will wait for it officially to appear somewhere. Can't trust everything you see on the internet. That's why I like Pat Andrews as a source even better. But if Hermantown is #1, means we start our coverage Wednesday night at 6 o'clock.
Well, that'll be nice, and that would have changed entirely what I was going to do as far as Wednesday. But since I'm not coming Wednesday, you and John will be able to fire them up at 6 o'clock and get everything going on, and it should be fun. Like we said, this is a different Hermantown team. They don't really have that 1 star, that one I'm going Division I light behind him when he walks onto the ice and everybody gives raising angel voices. But they got 20 kids who can play. They
do, and they can just suffocate you defensively and ask anybody who's played them recently. They've been even better than advertised at that, I think, in the past month.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to play them. Like, that team is not going to give you a quarter. So, they're going to be tough out.
So we will see what happens at the state tournament. We will see it, and we will talk about it for you as we bring you the play-by-play of the state tournament. As far as the Hawks are going, we will not go consolation style because they moved it too far out of the way. If Hermantown wants to bow out early, we're not going to White Bear Lake to watch some consolation hockey.
Wait, what? They're not going to the U?
Well, they might be, but I think they need to go to White Bear Lake for the cons is what I believe the brackets are.
Oh, yeah. No. You didn't want to play in the consolations before. You're going to send them to a random rink in a random part of the city? Yeah,
that's what I believe I read this year. I'll have to double check the brackets, but following the Hawks for as many years as we have, consolation bracket and Hermantown just have not been synonymous. We hope we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, don't say that into the universe, though. Every Hermantown hockey fan just winced when you said that.
Absolutely. But again, bulletin board material. Pat Andrews loves it. We'll talk to him to close the show again this week because we did that last week. And when I was texting him, I said, I don't know if you want to do 2 shows in a row, but it's your fault. You keep winning. We want to talk to you.
I'm wondering how many more random places you could put a consolation game than White Bear. Maybe Cottage Grove. I mean, you could run a team out at Crystal. Like, I don't know where else you could put. Like, that's a terrible spot for any kind of state tournament stuff. That's like what they do in the first round of the football playoffs. Let's just pick a random spot and we'll play it there.
And the #1 seed for Hermantown is now confirmed. So now we wait to see what the opponents are going to be, and I think we've got that as well.
All right, what do we got?
War Road is the 2. It looks like St. Cloud Cathedral got themselves the 3, Matamidi 4, Orono 5. Hermantown as the 1 will play Alexandria, a matchup we've done before.
Okay, so how is this different? What percentage of change is there in the last 3 years to this tournament?
I was going to say there's not a ton of parity in single-A hockey. Those that like to talk about it, I don't know if there's a lot of support to your argument anymore. Meanwhile, on the other side, the AA bracket, I don't want to call that a mess, but I think a lot of prognosticators were wrong about that.
Yeah, because the team that they said could beat many college teams lost to Chanhassen. And so Chanhassen's got to get a bump from that, I would think. It'll be interesting to see what Rapids gets out of their hard-fought win the other night and controversy wafting all over that game. But Rapids wins, and so it'll be interesting to see where they sit.
Well, ask and you shall receive because you want to know, and I will tell you because I just found the AA matchups
honestly,
as well.
Honestly, that's how it usually works.
I don't like to spend the entire first segment on my Twitter account, but it's certainly helpful today. So Grand Rapids will play nice and late. They get the supposed 8 o'clock on Thursday, which
the 4 or 5.
We all know that 8 o'clock is like 8:45 at best. They are in the 4-5 game. They are the 5th one.
Okay.
White Bear Lake is the 4, Rapids 5. Number 1 Edina plays in front of them at 6 o'clock Thursday evening. Edina will get Elk River. Elk River, you got there. You didn't have to play at Amsoil. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Here's Edina in a quarter.
They might win. Everybody from Duluth's cheering for Elk River for at least one night.
Meanwhile, the 3 in AA, I believe that's Centennial, and it is, and they will play Cretin-Durham Hall, who knocked off Mike Randolph's St. Thomas Academy team last night.
That'll also be an interesting game. Cretin's hot right now.
And then Chanhassen will play the combo known as Century John Marshall with the Rochester crew that made their way to the state tournament.
So it's just sad. The St. Cloud is big enough to have multiple teams, and they have one. Rochester's big enough to have multiple teams. They have one. They have one AA and a couple single A's, and it's just weird.
Absolutely. So again, we just recapped the AA matchups, but the single A is more important locally for Hermantown fans, of course. 11 a.m., number 2 War Road plays to open the tournament against New Ulm, probably the darkest of dark horses in the tournament.
Yep. Hat tip, good luck, New Ulm.
Number 3 seed gets the 1 o'clock game. That is St. Cloud Cathedral. Been there, done that many times for St. Cloud Cathedral, and they will play against Northfield in that 1 o'clock, which is more like 2 o'clock matchup.
That's a sneaky good game.
It is. The evening one, number 1 Hermantown will take on Alexandria to begin the evening session at 6 o'clock, and then the 4-5, that'll probably get underway maybe at 8:45, 9 o'clock. Matamidi Orono is actually a pretty good game.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a war. They don't like each other anyway. It's really too bad that's a first-round game. That'd be a fun second-round game.
Well, and what it means, of course, speaking of second-round games, is you could get the same second round you had last year. You could have Hermantown Matamidi again.
Yeah, right, and you could get St. Cloud Cathedral War Road. Imagine how different things are, right? As much as the world changes, it stays the same.
Absolutely. Here we thought everything this year was going to be different because this year was different because back on Thursday, we had an extra day. It was a leap year. How did you spend it? I was shocked we didn't have a game to do.
How would I spend? Work. That's what I was
Did
doing.
you? Well, what else? There's an evening.
Yeah.
Because we thought we'd have a 7AA title game to maybe call. We didn't have that.
What did we do that night? I don't even remember. Oh, yeah, I do.
Seems so long ago?
No, I had an interesting experience. So we ordered something from Etsy like 2 weeks ago that was going to go into the guest room that Dana's putting together, right? And we got nothing. We got no confirmation. They took our money, right? And so Thursday night was the night to write the review. And, I'm pretty mild-mannered, but when I get to that point, that review was scathing. Give it 5 minutes, the dumb thing shows up at our door. So then I scramble to get that review off. I still used most of it because the communication was terribly bad. But what they sent us was exactly what they told us they were going to send. It would have been nice if they'd have said, oh, yeah, by the way, we put your thing in the mail. But they never did. So it was a night of expressing anger followed by mea culpa and then hanging stuff on the wall. It was all work on Thursday night.
So that's why you said work. Because day or night, it was still labor on your part. So you're not looking forward to the next leap year because you didn't get any kind of break, extra relaxation.
Well, we'll be like 70 the next time there's a leap year or something.
How old are you getting? You do know they come around every 4 years, right?
Oh, all right. Sorry.
This isn't Haley's Comet. It's just leap year. Trust me, barring tragedy, you should see the next one.
All right, good enough. That works.
All right, so leap year wasn't terribly interesting on Dave Cook's part. It was fun on mine. I went to the stand-up comic Matt Rife down at Symphony Hall on Thursday nights. And one thing to relate it back into state hockey that I have to tell you. So somebody gave him a Grand Rapids sweatshirt because Rapids and Andover played that double overtime thriller that night. So he takes the stage in his Rapids hockey sweatshirt. He does his show for a solid hour. Good content of stand-up comedy in terms of length of time, certainly. By the way, at my age, don't go to a show that starts at 10:30.
I was going to wonder, did you bring smelling salts for Jen?
We thought about it.
Late.
I'll tell you what, we thought Jen would be the problem. It was all 4 of us. We went in a group of 4, and we're like, geez, it's after midnight, and I don't think he's taken to the stage yet. So it was a late night, certainly. But late in the act, somebody must have realized what his sweatshirt said, because from where we were, our seats were great in terms of location and accessibility and all that good stuff. But he's far enough away where you're not making out the wording on his sweatshirt. And the GR, we thought maybe was MR for Matt Rife. And then we realized, wait, that is a Rapid sweatshirt. Well, somebody down front did too. And all of a sudden he yelled, bleep Grand Rapids. And Matt Rife took off on that. And I don't think he realized there was one in Minnesota. He's like, what do you guys got against Grand Rapids, Michigan? What happened to you? And it just became kind of a humorous point in the night.
Yeah, no, that sounds kind of funny. That's how I'd do it. Like, oh, Grand Rapids, what's wrong with Michigan? Don't you like that part? Are you a Youper and you just hate the southern part? You hate the Mitt?
Right. So it was a really interesting evening, but leap years are interesting because it just feels weird I don't know how much documentation you did at work that day, but to put 2/29 as the date just is a weird feeling.
Yeah, the first thing somebody said to me was, hey, the next time you're going to be writing these numbers together, it'll be the 24th of February in 2029.
Well, according to you, you were going to be 70, which
Right.
mathematically that doesn't work. Didn't
Right.
you just turn 56? Speaking of this week, back on Tuesday, you turned 56.
Something on that order, yes.
So you got your Lawrence Taylor birthday.
Yes, I did.
There you
My
go. See,
gosh.
that makes it sound better.
That really does. That
Because
helps.
when you put a jersey number of an athlete you like on your birthday, that's easy.
Are you going to wish me Kylie Wong next year?
I could. Wait a minute. No, I'm not, because I know who I'm dealing with. You're going to be Mike Merriweather next year.
Oh, that's true. I will be Mike Merriweather. I like Mike Merriweather.
See, now in a month, 26 days, I'm going to be 45. Do I have to go Cecil Fielder birthday?
No,
or
you'll be Doug Plank,
Ugh, really?
the guy from the Bears, right? Plank?
I'll
Wasn't
go
he
with
45?
it. I'll go with it.
He's the guy they named the 45 defense after. Wasn't it Plank?
I've never heard of the 45 defense. I know the 46 for Buddy Ryan. That's all I know.
That's right. Yeah, I had the wrong
You're on
number.
a roll today. He spent leap year not studying
No,
anything.
The worst thing, though, in the last bit was last Wednesday when we did the Hermantown game, and I was trying to be adorable and do something funny.
And my sister said you overused that word,
Yeah,
adorable.
she winced. She winced just now. But when I tried to say no cap, and my brain was someplace else, and I said no hat, and it was. I heard about that.
It was pretty great because I said to you, I go, was that a bit? And you said, yeah. And then you kind of stared at the ground.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was interesting. But there is no bit when it comes to our sponsors. They are 100% genuine. We'll give them a little love right now.
Yes, let's start with Arola Architecture Studio. It's important on days like this to remember that Ryan's the one that took us through all the really bad times, and that we're thinking about Ryan right now. Hoops Brewing, OAR Holdings, Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer. Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing. The Blackwoods Group, including their locations on London Road, in Proctor, in Two Harbors, Blackwater, and Tavern on the Hill.
Absolutely. And in Proctor, Easter Sunday is apparently right around the corner if you're planning on utilizing them as well, because they do have a family meal that feeds 6, available for $165. You need to get those orders in by March 22nd. You can do it via phone call. You can do it via email. The email is easter@blackwoods.com. The phone call would be to Jessica, 218-625-6147. So if you're in Easter planning mode already, Blackwoods can take care of it for you.
Absolutely. And Brian, on your way to Proctor and you're going to pick that up, right? You might need a bottle of wine or two. Mount Royal Bottle Shop is
There you
also
go.
one of our
Look at you,
sponsors.
Captain Segway
How
over
about
here.
that, right? Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies. Not sure how you'd work them into Easter, but I'm sure we could figure out a way. If you're making an Easter basket for your favorite hockey player or bicyclist, that might be a place to go. Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai and Comfort Systems of Duluth. Another Easter, maybe I'm not quite sure, but if you know somebody who lives in Duluth that's not on Comfort Systems,
They're doing it wrong.
That might be your Easter gift to them.
There you go. They are a gift to us each and every Saturday. We're very, very, very grateful for them. And they helped us take a leap into being a show that can be heard every Saturday for almost 7 years now.
Almost 7. It's so crazy. We were talking about that before we started. It was 8:45 and we were 9:45 and we were still working on some stuff. And it was like 7 years ago at this point, we would needed Xanax.
I know. It was about 4 minutes before the show. That last commercial break was running, and I said, I better get my headset ready. And maybe if you listened to the first 15 minutes, you'd say, yeah, you guys sounded pretty unprepared today. But again, when this show first started, if we weren't sitting in the proper chair, completely ready to go 25 to 30 minutes ahead of time, we were doing it wrong. Why we wanted to be ready that early, I don't know. We weren't going on early, but preparation was to the nth degree. Now it's more like preparation to the H degree, preparation H for this show.
But now it's time to we have more fun.
We do.
It used to be very structured, and now we got to get to our first segment here because we haven't started it yet.
I was going to say the lack of structure shows because we're 15 minutes in and we haven't started the opening topic. But again, state tournament seating kind of took precedent today.
Absolutely.
Because, again, it has a bearing on everybody listening who's rooting for Hermantown or rooting for your team of choice at the state tournament. So we ran through the matchups as they came about. And, of course, selfishly, it impacts us. When and where are we going? Now we know 6 o'clock at the X, Hermantown, Alexandria.
Absolutely. Should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. Alexandria is spooky. And so, and they know Hermantown, right? And so this Hermantown team's as good as ones we've seen in the past. It's a different team, but it's very good. And but Alexandria, they think that they belong on the ice with them. Like they've seen them before. It's not like the first time they've ever seen that big H.
Again, because if you look at the brackets, it's not the first time that anybody's seen anybody, it seems, on the Class A side of things. Whole lot of familiarity. But speaking of familiarity, we're not too familiar except for every 4 years. with the leap year concept, or if you're Dave, apparently every decade and a half, because he thinks the next one comes when he turns 70. But we also try not to repeat opening topics on this show. And the reason we don't like to do that is because we're just not into recycled material or best of or that kind of thing. We try not to do the same type of opening topic. One of the challenges that we embrace is coming up with new opening topics each and every week. Some of them have been great. Some of them haven't worked out the way we wanted to. Well, today we're going to go ahead and we're going to repeat one, because we're going to assume, with the exception of my mom and Topher, that there isn't somebody who's going to recall, wait a minute, you guys did this 4 years ago almost to the day. Well, because guess what? We have a leap year related opening topic.
And which we did 4 years ago.
Probably.
Almost to the day.
Because we can go back and look at the archives.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, Brian, is we're going to talk about each of our 4 local professional teams. Right. And we're going to talk
about the men's ones.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the players who need to take a leap forward and who maybe need to leap off.
Right. We're going to do I like that phrase. That sounds a little more profane, yes, but also radio clean. Leap off.
Leap off.
But what we're going to do, the way I was going to phrase it, but I think I prefer Dave's, is who do we need to take that next step? Take the giant leap to get a little better at what they're doing for our men's professional Big 4 sports teams. Or you've got that player that I would have said, take a flying leap. We've tried, we're done with you. Mm-hmm. So speaking of moving along, which team do you want to move along to first?
Well, I think that we should start with the Minnesota Timberwolves, since it seems like the last couple days they maybe have taken some time off.
So if you start with the guy that you need to nudge to take that leap forward, didn't you see the progress you wanted last night? Isn't that the guy?
No.
Really? Because for me it is.
Nope. The guy I think we need to take a leap forward with, because they're going to have to make some changes in the offseason in order to afford everybody, right? The guy who needs to leap forward is Leonard Miller.
In a big way.
They need that guy who they had so much faith in this summer to be a guy who can take this. They're going to have to trade Cat. They just financially, not that they want to, financially they're going to have to do it. And he needs to be the guy to take that spot, and we're not seeing anything from him.
I think that's fair. I think the gentleman that I chose kind of segues off of that. And when you first started, I didn't think it would. But if Karl Anthony Towns is a salary cap casualty for this team in the not-so-distant future, you're going to get offense from Anthony Edwards. You're going to get production. I don't know if you call it offense, although the numbers will be fine, from Rudy Gobert. But you need that bona fide third scorer. Mike Conley's not really there to be it. That's not in his game.
Yep.
So a very popular scoring position in NBA history, beginning of the game to current, is that small forward spot. For the Timberwolves, that's Jaden McDaniels. And he needs to be better. And we've said it for a month and a half or longer. You saw one of the better versions of him last night. Now, I'd love to know if you saw it because Anthony Edwards wasn't available for half the game for personal reasons. I believe fatherhood was a big part of that personal reason. But especially if you don't have Karl Anthony Towns, because I was going to say it with Towns, because I think they're going to find a way for him to stay. I just do.
I don't know how, Brian.
But I think even present day with this team that seems poised to make a run, how long, I'm not sure. But Jaden McDaniels needs to be a much bigger part of it. So he's the guy that you're just going, come on.
Yep. And
it just hasn't shown up yet.
Who's the guy you'd tell to move along? Like, if for me, that one's pretty hard, actually, who you move along. And this guy can move along, and it's not going to shake anything up. I think it might be Luka Garza, because people keep talking about him, and he's the 19th guy on a 14-man bench.
Well, and I'll tell you what,
of the guys who are in the rotation, slow-mo, but they need that.
If you wanted to deal somebody and get something back that could be of low cost to you, Luka Garza is that guy, because it seems like he's the guy who's down in the G League putting up 30, 40 a night and coming up here and getting a minute and a half and putting up 5 points, which in a minute and a half is still plenty good.
Yeah.
So if you think you could deal a diamond in the rough and get a nice return package, I like your theory with Garza. I had to go kind of low-hanging fruit because it's just a guy that I don't think has a place anymore, and I think the trade deadline kind of proved it. It's J-Mac. It's Jordan McLaughlin. Just, there are times where he surprises you, but it's because there's such a low bar. Everything surprises you. Because there are other times where you go, how is this guy still on an NBA roster? Certainly seems like a likable guy. Doesn't have the prettiest outside shot, and he's just too tiny to live amongst the trees. So as this team continues to try to find the next point guard after Mike Conley, it's become clear to me that Jordan McLaughlin isn't it.
He might be a coach, though. Like, he seems to have all the bits of the game that you need.
Imagine that, a point guard who could coach.
Right, except that. Well, where should we go next, Brian? You want to go? You know what? I have an interesting one for the Wild. So let's go to the NHL.
The Wild taking that leap forward, man, pick one. There are so many. I think I'm going to take your favorite non-gopher, and I think it's however you want to pronounce it. I think it's Rossi or Rossi, because you've got Kaprizov that looks like a bona fide star. You've got Boldy, who's done enough to look like a bona fide star to me, inconsistently, albeit, but it's there. Eriksson Ek is still their most important player. We've talked about it. One more guy that could really contribute consistently and be a force to be reckoned with, and a guy that has all the draft hype to come with him, it's got to be Marco, isn't it?
I'm going the same direction you are, but much more recent. I think the guy they need to come in and take a leap is Marat Husnadinov.
You just wanted to have to say that.
And I got it right because I have it all phonetically
and I have to go with it because I didn't even try to have YouTube say it for me.
Actually, in all seriousness, though, they got a kid who's a little older who has played very, very well in the KHL, who literally, if everything turns out right, like he can slide in as your number 2 center. He might be able to slide in as your number 1 center because with Minnesota, it's not that big of a bar. Right. You're doing Eriksson Ek.
The number 2 center too often plays like number 2, if you know what I mean.
Eriksson Ek is obviously the guy, but he's flexible to line, right? And so this kid, really, they need him to step up for next year. Right now, the guy who you're going to say he can move along.
I had 2 that I debated between.
I think one of them were going to be the same. I don't know if it'll be the other one.
So my first one was Zuccarello.
Oh, okay.
Because I know he's nookie blanky for Kaprizov, but he's nookie blanky for the opponents these days because the amount of times that the puck gets turned over in a bad spot by a veteran player like him has reached kind of a bothersome level for me. And the other thing, I don't know what it is about guys whose name end in O, but the other one for me was Foligno. And I know personality-wise, that just doesn't fit this team's mantra, that they would have no edge, no attitude without him. But they have a lot of edge, they have a lot of attitude, and they don't have a lot of production from him.
Yep.
I know he'd be a fan favorite, and it would be tough to move on, but I think they should. In fact, spoiler alert for buy or sell, I hope this team sells a lot. But with the contracts they gave out, I don't know who's going to take them from them.
Yeah, we've talked about that. I mean, this is in Guerin we trust.
Yeah.
Took a big hit that day when he signed all 3. So for me, I'm really going easy then because you left Freddie Gaudreau for me.
See, but you forget how much I like him.
Freddie's got to go.
I just don't want him to leave.
Freddie's got to go. But the other guy that needs to go, and this is a hard one, but he's the guy that's blocking players moving up because he's there and now he's a great story again, and that's Mason Shaw. Mason Shaw you have to be so impressed at the effort that he took to come back from another ACL. But this is like ACL number 14, right? He's blocking Beckman and he's blocking all these other players for a feel-good story.
Right.
And, for as much as Billy talks about, grinder, tough guy team, we got a lot of feel-good stories on this team. And that one just they need to protect him from himself almost.
I agree with you. I think too many of mine had different logic behind it or different reasoning where I got fed up with some of the way that they played, but mine has financial implications too. And really it's, Bill Guerin, why'd you give this guy this contract? Why'd you give this guy this contract? But it's, if they take a flying leap and this team is hoping to recover with cap constraints loosening, it's the best way to do it.
And Zuccarello is a good call. I didn't even think about Zuccarello. So let's go to baseball, shall we? Let's go to the Twins. And I'm going to say the one that we need to see something from because he makes the roster so much better if he can figure it out is Austin Martin. If Austin Martin can come up and be
Does the recent trade tell you that they're not ready for him because he's not ready?
100% is what it tells me. But if he's there and they have Willie Castro, now you've gotten you have backups at both spots because Martin can play all 3 outfield spots. He can play second base, third base. He's not a shortstop. And Castro can play those same spots. So if they have 2 guys that can do those things, now you've got roster manipulation. But if Austin Martin becomes a 260 singles hitter, well, he doesn't help anybody.
So I have a question for you on mine because I had 2 options, and it's an interpretation type question. Because for me, I'm curious if take a leap forward is the same, if you will, as put up or shut up.
Can be, 100%. Because that's what you're asking them to do,
Because
right?
is taking a leap forward nudging and encouraging, or is it do this or get out?
Yes, I think you could look at it either way. So who do you got?
Okay, because if I was gently saying, come on, we need a little bit more, it's Julian. Because I love his approach at the plate, but now you're the second baseman. And we said it for how many months last year? Well, this kid can hit, but he's a hatchet job in the field. Well, you can't have that. So he's got to become a defensive, serviceable player. He doesn't have to be a stalwart. He doesn't have to be a Gold Glove, but you can't be, ground ball to second. That's into right because everything is.
Right. And you've got the best player in the system sitting behind you.
Right. And the put up or shut up is Kirilloff. And it might be because he simply can't put up because he can't play. But it's getting to be Buxton-esque of, doesn't quite have the same hype, but how many chances are you going to give this guy where when he's there, wow, it's fun, but when's he there?
Well, and to tie those two things together, Brooks Lee is your second baseman of the future, and maybe Julian's your first baseman of the future.
Right. But if we're being honest, isn't it not a position player at all? Isn't it the guy that I've said I love and he's going to be great? And people go, yeah, but what if he isn't? Isn't it Ober? You're going to be in a spot to shine in this rotation.
You're number 2 starter.
And if you don't, Paddock's got the injury excuse. Ober's got, okay, you were good. Time to go be great.
I can't figure out somebody that I want to leap off.
I can't either because I have too much love of baseball, and this team last year was fun.
So the two guys that even came to mind, Vasquez, but we don't have anybody behind him, right? So I think baseball too deep. And this pitcher that they got from wherever, the Di Scafini, like we talk about him too much. Like he is
right. We acted like we signed an ace.
Right. He is the ultimate. Maybe he's on the roster being the 9th bullpen guy.
You didn't pick on Kepler. That surprised me.
No, because Kepler, I maybe forgot about him. He'd be a good one, too, for this.
There you go. I was going to say that, but there's got to be somebody who's been around this team now because the two guys that have been in the lineup for, how many years, Polanco and Kepler, half of them are gone.
So maybe the put up and shut up guy should be Wallner because...
This early, though?
Yeah, but his numbers were really good, but I don't know how you sustain them. Like, he's swinging at everything. Now, if he hits it, great. But you know who else did that? Joey Gallo.
Who else did that for a little while? Kennys Vargas.
Yeah. God, there's a pull.
Right.
That's a great name pull.
Right.
All right, so we go purple?
I got one more for maybe take a flying leap for the Twins because I didn't go that route because I struggled with it too. It depends on if we get playoff version of this guy or second half version of this guy, Griffin Jacks, because he's going to continue to be put in, it seems, high leverage situations. And I know with the Twins bullpen history, we're all going to hold our breath innings 6, 7, and 8 anyway.
Yeah.
Sure would be nice to exhale once in a while.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And how about me picking Mason Shaw? I probably should say Jose Miranda, right? Because
where does he go on this team?
Right, he's the other answer to Julian's question. If he can play, he might be your first base DH guy if we can't trust Kirilloff. But
how many of those do we have? What's Carlos Santana here for?
He is kind of Carlos Santana without the glove.
Right. They've got a boatload of first base DH types.
Julian's got to be the guy.
And I still think at some point Byron Buxton is going to be DHing a lot.
Yeah.
They say not. I'll believe it when I see it.
That's why it messes. That's why Buxton in the lineup in center field makes the lineup, and why Buxton out of center fielder wrecks the lineup.
All right, we've got one left, and we've got a couple minutes before we get to Dave Hoops. So the purple, this will be fun, but we can analyze this further because, oh, by the way, Paul Allen will join us to kick off hour number 2.
Yeah, so get going here. Somebody needs to take a leap for me is Andre Carter II. And the reason is we have no defensive ends. Like we have Patrick, what's his name?
Patrick
Jr.
Jones,
yes.
the second.
And that's it.
What's the difference between a junior and the second? I want to know who makes that decision.
Mom. I can just tell you right now, since I'm the second, I know exactly who made that decision.
Because she's like, okay, you can give him his name. I get to decide what goes on the end of that.
She said, I don't want the nickname. He's the second.
Ah, perfect.
So then we
I
nicknamed
was going to say,
Dad.
I've never called you junior before.
Right, so we nicknamed Dad Senior. Anyways, Andre Carter needs to turn into the guy that they spent so much. I mean, you think they really hit the undrafted free agent thing with the linebacker,
right? Ivan Pace.
The guy they paid more money to was Andre Carter,
right? And
Andre Carter needs to be able to take that Army body, which was only trained to run long distances, and turn into an NFL player because they desperately need that spot.
So I struggled with this because the Vikings made a move this week that counteracted what I had in my pocket for this segment. Because I was going to say, if you want to stick around and be a number one back on this team, Alexander Madison, you better get your butt in gear. Well, the Vikings said get your butt in gear somewhere else.
Right. They took the flying leap for him.
Right. So that kind of made it difficult for me because with the purple, and I know you could say this for every team because the topic lends itself to this, sometimes the person that you want to say, take that leap forward, you also want to immediately say, because if you don't, take a flying leap because I'm tired of it. So for me, it kind of was Byron Murphy with both of those because it's the only veteran in the secondary you have. It's the only one as far as corners go.
Yep.
If he doesn't take a leap forward, they're not very good again. But if he doesn't, they paid him to be the man, and he's not. Let's be done with it.
My take the leap also was a cornerback, and that's Andrew Booth Jr., because you don't seem to be figuring this out.
Right.
Like, you're right. A guy that you drafted so high, you've had opportunities, and you're just not figuring it out.
I agree.
And that's a problem to me.
Could you tongue-in-cheek say, take a leap forward, Lewis Seen, and a giant leap forward to be playing 4 or 5 games?
How about starting any?
Right.
The other, it wasn't a guy, it was a position. We have 6 backup tight ends. Could somebody in that group decide that they are the backup tight end instead of a little bit of this guy and a little bit of that guy and a little bit of this guy? Oliver was kind of a bust.
Well, and with TJ Hawkinson's injury uncertainty, you're going to need a tight end step forward immediately.
Exactly. And so they got to fill those 3, either need to take the leap or leap off.
With all the questions around the future of JJ, and we can talk about that with PA a little bit later, Jordan Addison had a great rookie season, but is he still being asked to take that leap forward because he may have to shoulder even more of this team's load?
Okay. You know I love the draft, and I love the opportunity to talk about all this stuff. Can I say the idea of them trading Justin Jefferson is the dumbest idea I've heard.
Which is pretty much what Kwesi came out and said too. But if you look at the GM in front of him, every time that GM came out and said, we're not trading this guy, 2 weeks later, he was gone.
How big of a package, if you're the Vikings, would it take to get Justin Jefferson?
Yeah.
I mean, would it have to be the number 3 pick? Would you trade Jefferson straight up for the number 3 pick? I would not.
I didn't even hear the return. When you said, would you trade Jefferson? I stopped. And I go, nope.
Right. I can't think of, like, if the Bears offered number 1 and number 9 for Jefferson, maybe.
Absolutely not. Because I'll tell you what, there is a large faction of this fan base that doesn't necessarily trust Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah.
And I am one of them.
If you want this fan base to completely abandon ship on anything positive in regards to him, trade Justin Jefferson and see what you've got. I just can't possibly see it. Now, I know he came out and said, I can't see it either. That's supposed to put all of us at ease. Again, Rick Spielman didn't necessarily do that.
They would have to blow the Vikings' doors off.
And I don't think there's anything out there that could.
I guess I agree.
What, are the Raiders going to give you Devontae so you have the replacement immediately?
And that's not. You'd have to get multiple picks and you'd have to get players. Like, the combination would have to be that. It couldn't be an individual.
And I'd be afraid that if you got that, you'd get Herschel Walker 2.0.
That's the Kwesi issue. 100%.
Right. Except for it would be flipped because JJ would still go dominate somewhere. Herschel didn't. We'd get a bunch of players that would end up cut somehow.
Well, and if the number 1 overall guy, you pick the wrong quarterback, right? Number 9 guy, you happen not to have any of the receivers available. That would be how it would roll.
So that is our leap year opening topic, not to be confused with Haley's Comet. It will be around again 4 years later. But I tell you what, we're bumping out with jump. And a lot of people would jump away from being a Viking fan if JJ jumps to another team.
Prep for this topic in 4 years.
Yes, there you go. Treat it like the Olympics at least used to be. And then they went every couple with summer, winter alternating. It used to be so easy. Now they make it difficult for you.
That seems to be life.
Dave Hoops makes nothing difficult. He's next. We're the Northland Sports Page. Stick around.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players. Pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
And we are back here on the Northland Sports Page. It's Brian Prudhomme, it's Dave Cook, and soon it will be Dave Hoops because he tells us what we want all the time. We have a good time talking to Dave Hoops. We expect today to be no exception.
Brian, you know, every so often you see or talk to a friend or a family member that's gotten into something new, and then they kind of go all in, and you're just shaking your head a little bit.
Sure.
I told you what we're going to do at the house today, right? We got a dresser that we're going to deconstruct and make something else.
All right.
So I get this text during break. Hey, you know where we could look for a headboard? The dump. And I'm like, this is, now we're going the wrong direction. Like buy a used dresser and you want to make it into those 2 nightstands. That's one thing.
So you're saying we need a furniture store as a sponsor. We've got just about everything else. Let's give them love right now.
We do. Let's start, since we're talking about home, Brian, let's talk about Comfort Systems. Comfort Systems of Duluth. Kohler Hyundai and Kohler Toyota. Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Advantage Implement Screen Printing, Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer, OAR Holdings, Arola Architecture Studio, Hoops Brewing, and the Blackwoods Group. Why don't you quick tell us about the Easter thing?
Absolutely. Pretty good Easter options as far as Blackwoods is concerned. Get those orders in as fast as you can because Blackwoods, again, they do have a family meal available for Easter this year, and it feeds 6, and the cost is $165. And again, you can place your orders from now until March 22nd. And basically, you can do it 2 different ways. You can make a phone call. You can do it with Jessica, and that phone number is 625-6147. Or you can do it via email, easter@blackwoods.com. You can have that Easter meal delivered, or you can pick it up at their Proctor location. So Blackwoods doing everything great for you on Easter. It does feel a little bit early to be in that planning mode, but we're into March. And I guess Easter ends the madness because I believe Easter this year is the very last day of March, the 31st.
Yeah, we were talking about that at home yesterday because so we officially don't have any hockey games to do public address or basketball games to do public address on the way out.
Right.
Except the All-Star game, right?
Same.
Baseball starts like the 2nd of April. So we have through the rest of the month, which means I get to help at Easter.
It's a little bit crazy because March is quickly affiliated, especially in sports, with March Madness. But then I look at my schedule as an announcer, and other than this coming week at the tournament, which is amazing, by the way, we've done it for several years, my calendar in March is fairly blank. I get to be a fan of the madness everywhere else.
Right. No, that's 100% true. But
I'm sorry, did I disturb your breakfast?
You did.
You are eating like crazy as we go to this
trying
segment.
to be fast, trying to be efficient. The thing about March is that we are so busy the first couple of months or of the year. Come March, it's like somebody throws a great big parachute behind us and it just stops, which is such a weird sensation.
But the madness in sports is just beginning here on March the 2nd. We bring in Dave Hoops. Dave is the ultimate sports fan. He is the sports brewer at Hoops Brewing. March has got to be fantastic for you, and good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. Sorry I didn't get the whole first segment, but you're right about March. And as you know, I'm in Madison today, staring at the lake. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. In about an hour, I'll be watching the Badgers play the Illini with Finn.
Yeah, you get to go to an outstanding basketball game with a team that can really put up some points because the Gophers in Illinois had a good game earlier this week. It's not often you score in the 90s and lose. That's what the Gophers did because that Illini team could put up triple digits pretty easily.
Oh, 100%. And it's such an important game because at one point the Badgers were 6th in the country, and now they're outside the top 20. They need this win. They need actually this win, and the Big Ten wins a little bit. Otherwise, they're going to be at an 8 or a 9 seed. They're going to get hammered by the number 1 seed. So we'll see if they can pull it off today, but it'll be fun. It's fun watching college basketball, like, right in front of you. It's really, really good stuff.
I was going to say, it's really interesting to hear you talk about this because, of course, those that don't know you with a last name like Hoops, it makes sense. But those that do know you know how important hockey is to you. But this time of year, you love the college basketball too, don't you?
I do, of course, and and we'll talk about that more. But yeah, I was really looking at the brackets, and I'm excited. Of course, I'll be down there next week, and hopefully, I'll see you guys. It'll be my 24th year in a row or something since I moved back here, and it's like second to none. And there's some interesting matchups this year. It's interesting that of the top 10 teams, 3 of them got knocked out just because of the sectionals.
I was going to say, some of them, when you can't help it, when ranked teams are facing each other just to get there. Start with AA. Chanhassen, did the unthinkable. Although Chanhassen, if you saw them this year, they were pretty machine-like as well. But beating Minnetonka just didn't feel like anybody was going to do that. One team did. It was Chanhassen.
Yeah, it was great. And, I went to high school in Glencoe, which was only like 20 miles from Chaskatchan, and we played that all the time. And it's been fun when Finn was coming up in youth hockey, watching this team get better. I think we're probably going to see an Edina-Chanhassen final. Obviously, there'll be some upsets, but that would be really epic. And if those kids could pull that off, I would be really happy for them.
I was going to say, that would be chalk, if you will, because Chan is the 2, Edina is the 1. The 3 seed, meanwhile, is Centennial. A lot of people didn't think they'd get there because they had to get by Maple Grove to do it. And Centennial's first round game is Cretin-Durham Hall. A lot of people didn't think they'd get there either because Mike Randolph, a state record, and St. Thomas was in their way, but Cretin-Durham Hall is there.
They are, and I wanted to see St. Thomas down there for personal reasons.
Too.
But I will root against Cretin for the rest of my life, thanks to what they did to East when they were 29-1 coming in, and I'll never forgive them for that. So I'm going to be pulling for Centennial in that game.
And then the evening AA, it's going to be Edina versus Elk River. We joked about it in the first segment. Elk River gets out of the Amsoil Section 7, moves over to Section 8, gets it done. Here's your prize. You get to go to the state tournament, but you get Edina right away.
Yeah, and I don't like Edina, but I don't like Elk River. I was happy when they got moved out of our section. That'll be a fun game. It'll be just interesting to go, and if Elk pulls it off, good for them, but I think it'll be a green wave there, unfortunately, I think.
And then again, the 8 o'clock game that they say is 8 o'clock, that is more like 8:45, 9 by the time it starts. 4-5 on paper is supposed to be good. I think on the AA side it will be. A little bit of local interest because the North got represented thanks to Grand Rapids. They are the 5. Number 4, White Bear Lake. They have never been out of the first round as a winner in their state tournament history. Can they do it against Grand Rapids? And these are going to be two teams that are riding a wave of emotion. Grand Rapids obviously gets there in double overtime against Andover earlier this week. White Bear won, quote, the game because it was White Bear and Hill Murray to decide that section for the 347,000th time.
So, Brian, quick question, though. If they play their consolation games in the same place that Single A does that mean White Bear gets a home game for consolation?
I'm not looking at consolation again yet. I'm just going through the matchups here with Dave Hoops, but you've got me doubting myself on consolation locations now, but I will take a look here.
Oh, no, I was teasing. You don't have to doubt yourself.
So the Single A consolations are at Aldrich Arena.
Oh, that's fine. That's not quite as bad as
that's Single A.
Right.
And the AA ones are as well. So it's Aldrich Arena that's being used.
All right. Well, that's better than some random out of the area arena that they would be using. No, I think
But it's still different than going to Mariucci or 3M or whatever the hell you guys call your complex now.
I think that Rapids has a shot.
Of course.
Only because nobody really gave them a shot against Andover. They had to work their tail off to beat Rock Ridge. I mean, they've had to work all the way to get where they are. Can the bell ring on a team and that's the end of the magic ride? Sure, but man, Rapids is not a normal 5 seed.
And then, of course, Single A Dave Hoops, number 2 is War Road to start the tournament. They will play a New Ulm team that is fairly new to the tournament. And the other afternoon game in Single A will be St. Cloud Cathedral. They are not new to this at all. Northfield will be their opponent. And then again, Hermantown gets the number 1 seed. They play at 6 o'clock. They'll play Alexandria. And that 4-5 could be a dandy. Matamidi and Orono, been there, done that for those two programs.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think Hermantown's going to have their hands full if they get to Matamidi, which is not, saying much because it's happened before. Obviously, I would love to see War Road play Hermantown for a lot of reasons.
I think we're going to get that.
Yeah, and that's great, and you know who I'm rooting for. But I think that Matamidi Hermantown game is going to be great, and I hope if they get there, I'm going to go out of my way to watch that one.
It'll be interesting because stylistically, this is a different Hermantown team than any other that we've watched over the last half dozen years that we've followed them to the state tournament. It's not as flashy. It's not as jaw-dropping. Depending on what style of hockey you like, you could argue it's not as entertaining. But I'll tell you what, it's super effective. This team could very well win the whole darn thing just by suffocating opponents.
It's like watching a cobra. Yeah. It's like watching a cobra fight versus an anaconda fight. The one will strike and kill you. The other one will squeeze you to death.
I'll tell you this, I'd be horrified watching either one.
Right. That wouldn't be a fun thing, but that's the difference between the two teams.
But I'll tell you what is fun, and that's Dave Cook's life-altering questions for Dave Hoops. I'm going to pass the torch to him right now.
All right. So I got a couple of interesting ones, I think, Dave. So we've talked a number of times about smells and different things in sports, but I have a question for you. So a sound that defines a sport, and the example that I want to give you is the squeaky shoes in a basketball gym. What in the 4 sports, what sound, if we played a sound or if you heard something, would define that sport for you?
Well, basketball, it's the clank on a missed 3-pointer.
It is,
especially if it's a game winner. Clank, that's a great sound, and that's kind of epic.
I would agree with that. I didn't know if you wanted one for each of the 4. Dave Hoops, I'm in complete agreement with you on the NBA one. It is the iron unkind when you hear the clank of the rim. It's a different sound than when a shot is pure. You could argue that the defining one, if you prefer
Swish.
made baskets, is the sound of a swish. Absolutely. Football for me, even though these are the guys that don't get acknowledged unless they goof up, it's the pad smacking of the 2 lines.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
immediately.
one.
That's when you go, I'm watching football, and they're hitting each other. baseball's the crack of the bat. There's no sound in sports that I prefer more. Hockey for me is the snow shower bit. When somebody comes rushing in and sort of hits the brake because the goaltender's there, but the snow shower happens. That's a sound I'm pretty familiar with.
Those are all pretty good, Dave. What about you?
Well, the clanks are kind of a theme for me. It's the clank of the goalpost on a missed field goal. It's the clank of the post on a hockey shot. Those are great, and that's immediately attention grabbing. Baseball, it's the home run. It's the crack. There's nothing better. Although I will say the snap of the glove on 100-mile-an-hour fastball isn't bad either.
I think those are pretty good. I think sports are a lot more sound dependent than we realize.
No, I 100% agree. All right, so we're going to get this out of sports for a second, guys. I was reading a thing the other day, and they were talking about what makes a character in movies, right? And one of the things that they brought up was an item, something that stands out, like Kingpin, the Marvel character, has an all-white suit, and he's gigantic.
See,
right?
I'm glad you said that, because when you say Kingpin, for me, I'm thinking Woody Harrelson teaching people how to bowl. Go ahead.
Right. So, but his white suit is kind of the thing that stands out, right? So that's when you see that great big white suit as a Marvel fan, they can show it to you from behind, and you know who it is. So, the best hero gadget in a movie could be, and I don't mean like Professor Gadget, I mean whatever they might have. What's the defining characteristic or thing, not their face, a defining thing that a character in a movie might have? What would be your favorite?
I don't think I know how to answer this. So, Dave Hoops, I will gladly pass it to you.
Yeah, well, that's a two-parter. So the best characteristic of any actor is a sense of cool. The feeling that they give you when you watch the screen and they just exude cool, man or woman. The best individual, it's Superman. The imperviousness that you can take anything, you can get shot in the face, you can do whatever, and nothing can take you down. But the way you phrased that immediately in the beginning, to me it was just that sense of coolness. Brad Pitt, I mean, that enough said.
Right? Brian, I think Dave's question is better than the one I had. Who's the coolest actor? Like, in your time, when you say cool actor, who comes to mind?
See, I think for me, it's two guys that probably have talked a lot about their craft together, and I would guess that maybe the younger of the two learned from the other. I'm going to go Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington both. Because Morgan Freeman's voice doing anything is iconic, of course, and everybody knows that. But he just has a way about him of making any character look cool. And I'm not sure I've seen range like Denzel Washington can offer on the screen.
So, Dave, I'm going to go old with this. One of the coolest actors I ever remember is Steve McQueen. Like, Steve McQueen, it radiated off him. So, yeah, no, Dave, that was a better question than the one I came up with. So, good work.
So, what were you looking for? Were you looking more like the weapon of choice of a superhero?
No, I was looking like if you saw the silhouette.
Like Mickey Mouse's ears.
Or Batman's Batarang.
Okay.
Or
because I thought you were going exclusively like superhero Marvel type movies, and I was going to go, Dave, I'll tell you this, the best part is the credits because I know it's over because I'm not watching any of those.
Fedora.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones Fedora. Things that were unique. And I'll come back to that question someday written better.
All right, very good. Do you have one more, or is that it for today?
That's it.
All right, well, I've got more questions related to Hoops Brewing because I keep seeing it on social media, and I'm more and more intrigued, and I'm hoping to stop down soon and be milling around Hoops Brewing. And yes, Dave, I used milling around on purpose.
Nice.
Tell us more about the mill room that is very much up and coming at the brewery.
Well, it's about done, and I really got to give a lot of credit to Jen and Ingrid, our events and our general manager, those folks who, I really staunchly fought for the ping pong and everything else, which I believe in, but really that space is beautiful, and we've converted it into kind of a loungy, 30-plus person, really intimate space that which will be open to the public, or you can rent it out and have it private. You can have your own DJ, you can have the screen playing movies, or you can do a PowerPoint presentation, et cetera, et cetera. But it's done. We're taking reservations now, and it kind of debuts the grand opening. Ingrid will roll out in a couple weeks, but it's nice. They've done a beautiful job building it, and it's really, really cozy.
It sounds pretty exceptional. It'll be a big part of the March Madness down at the brewery. Of course, the number one thing about Hoops Brewing is they have amazing beer in a wide variety of ways that you can order it, consume it, what have you. Tell us the latest and greatest in the beer that's available.
Well, thank you, Brian. I'm going to make you happy. So
You always do.
Cherry Stout is on. Cherry Stout's on tap. It's basically, imagine like a liquid fudge bar with a whole bunch of cherries. It's really good. But here's the other thing: we're going to expand. We have raspberry now, and we're going to be putting peach and pear on. We're going to add to like fruit beers. Besides the other, come and go, like the blueberry stout, blueberry pale and cherry and all that, and of course the pepper beer. But so we're going to always have 2 stalwart fruit beers on tap, and then of course we have a brand new batch of UK pale and brand new batch of hef, since it is spring, right?
It is.
So
it sure looks and feels like it
on.
anyway. Absolutely. So I appreciate all of that. Dave was kind of laughing at me. He's just looking over here watching me drool a little bit because he knows that I liked everything you were talking about. And he knows my announcing schedule is soon to get very, very, very minimized. So I may have a lot more time to check things out at Hoops Brewing. We encourage everybody to do that. Dave, enjoy the game today. Safe travels back from Madison. We don't know. We don't think we're going to be able to connect next week because we'll be doing our show down at the state tournament. But we did say we hope we see each other and get to have a conversation down there.
Yeah, I'll look for you guys, and no matter what, it'll be great listening to you on the radio. So see you soon.
All right,
Thanks,
we
Dave.
appreciate you each and every Saturday. That's our guy, Dave Hoops of Hoops Brewing. We buy just about everything he sells. Problem is, he doesn't usually let me pay for it. Tell you what, we'll play buy or sell next for the Northland Sports page. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
Back. We are always looking for a good buy here on the Northland Sports page. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook. Dave Cook has something to say. Yes, sir?
I get it now, Brian. Ruby red lips, blonde
I think you've been
hair,
having Hoops Brewing this morning.
blue eyes. That's me.
There you go. They're singing about you.
Yeah, it has to be, right?
You do have like a little bit of blonde hair going
And
on.
the
You have
eyes
more
are
blonde hair
blue.
going on now than you usually do. Are you overdue for
Yes,
a trim?
I am. Yes, I am. I got to find a place to do the beard thing now, too. Dana's like, all right, so I'm not going to tell
Can
you.
I recommend Avenue 45 again?
I think we
they've
can do
taken
that.
care of you before. Got my haircut there yesterday. I always appreciate their work.
They do good
So you
work.
have my
that's for
recommendation.
Sure. That's for sure.
You should buy what they're selling. They sell a great service.
Speaking of,
Absolutely. We're going to play some buy or sell. If you're new to the game, where were you? But here's how it works. I'm going to give a statement for each of the 4 major leagues. Not a specific team, but a league. And if Dave Cook agrees with my statement, he's going to say buy and tell me why. If he disagrees, he's going to say sell and tell me why. A little bit of an asterisk today. We're going to do the NFL last, and we may not expand on our answers because our number 2, PA, is going to start it. We'll kind of let him tackle that.
yeah, and we maybe dragged through our first segment a little bit.
We may have a little bit because, you know what, explaining to Dave what a leap year is and having the state tournament matchups come out all as the show begins.
Yep.
Kind of threw the schedule for a loop a little bit. But our number 2 just around the corner. Topher Davis may smile or wince when he hears this, but he's going to be in the middle of a PA sandwich because it's going to be Paul Allen, the PA, Topher Davis, and then Pat Andrews, the local PA.
Yeah, no, Toph, that's, but he's the guy that would think that was okay because
Or would have said it himself.
he's pretty good with the 2 PAs on either side.
Absolutely. So buy or sell, which league would you like to start with?
Let's go with the NHL.
All right, so I kind of teased this during our first segment because we talked about who on the Wild needs to take a flying leap, whether that's getting off the roster or very much improving their play. And I kind of said a lot of mine had to do with contracts I wish that they could sell off. The trade deadline is a little less than a week away. I believe it's March 8th. Buy or sell, quite frankly, that you think the Wild will do a lot of selling.
Well, I think it's going to be sell. I don't think they're going to do a lot of it. I think the reason is the 2 guys that are most likely to be sold are favorites.
Right.
Like Duhaime is the guy who's got the most value. They love Duhaime. Like I can't imagine that they're going to trade him. They might trade Dewar, but he doesn't have the same. I mean, what's he going to get you? Here's your 6th round draft pick for that guy. So I mean, I don't think they're going to do much selling at all because they don't really have any. I mean, they could sell Middleton, I suppose.
Well, and I'm going to go a different
who else?
direction. I agree with you, but I don't think they're going to do a lot of selling because I'm going to adopt the Will Peterson clause, if you will. there's a lot of fascinating scenarios that you could drum up in your head and say, well, they could get rid of this contract and get this guy back and this guy back. You got to have a partner willing to do that.
100%. And they've got so many new no-move trades that,
right,
or no-move contracts that they don't have.
So if you handcuffed yourself, whether it's with those clauses or if you handcuffed yourself with poor financial decisions, the Wild should sell. You got to have somebody willing to buy it, and I just don't see it.
And you could sell either goaltender off. Fleury said he doesn't want to go anywhere, and he has a no-trade contract. But you could sell Gus, but
then you really hope the young kid is going to be something else soon.
Well, but can the young kid be any worse than Gus right now? Like, Gus is kind of taking the gas pipe.
Well, the whole thing's been a roller coaster ride. I can't wait to talk to Topher Davis about that piece because, you say, well, you and Topher call John Hines Sam Adams. And we go, no, Dave, for the millionth time, it's Jack Adams. But I'll tell you this, in John Hines' tenure, it's either been Jack Adams or Sam Adams. There's been no in-between.
Right. All right, let's go to the NBA.
All right. So the NBA, the Timberwolves with a tough loss last night, but you can kind of shrug your shoulders and move on because they had played about half the game. And, Sacramento's a good team, and it went to overtime, and you just didn't win it. And in all seriousness, it might have not been that serious of a game, a mid-season, March 1st NBA regular season game. Big deal unless you had tickets, and that's the only one you're going to. You're bummed they lost.
But you'd have seen a heck of a game.
Right. Yep. So the Minnesota Timberwolves right now are still the top seed in the Western Conference. I'm going to keep it simple for you. Buy or sell that you believe they truly are the best team in the Western Conference.
Sell. I don't think. I think a healthy Clippers team, or I don't know if I'd want to face OKC for 7 games. But I think both of those markets would say they don't want to face the Timberwolves either. I think there's a 3-headed monster in the West.
So you left one out for me that I think is the other reason that they're not, because I'm going to sell as well. The team that won the whole thing last year, the Denver Nuggets, are still plenty good.
Yep. With
the pedigree of we know what it takes to be successful this time of year. The Timberwolves may have some better veteran leaders that have done some things, but Minnesota as an organization has no clue what it's like in the last 20 years to be in a position like this at this point on the calendar. I hope the Timberwolves become the best team in the Western Conference, and we're talking about playoffs in June because we know we're talking about if we get that far. But I'll tell you what, they're just not seemingly ready yet.
I agree with you, except they have veteran leadership and they have NBA players in their 6th and 7th spot on their bench.
The part that worries me, though, is they got off to one hell of a start.
Yep.
They've basically been a slightly above 500 team in the second half of the season. You want to peak in the second half, not the first.
Correct. That's the concern, but that's also the method that most teams have to being successful, is that, at some point they just are a 500 team and then they take off. But you're right about wanting to be the team that takes off in April.
But I will say this. How much fun is it that we're able to even have this conversation?
Right?
Rather than buy or sell, the Timberwolves can rally to get out of the play-in tournament.
Buy or sell, the 9 guys they got during the trade deadline that were all second-round draft picks will ever be anything.
Well, I saw a tweet earlier this week that, the Timberwolves had their 42 wins already, and that's what they had last season.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So think of the strides that they have taken.
Yep.
We're trying to embrace that, but alas, we're Minnesota sports fans, so the seed of doubt has to be there.
So let's go do NHL.
Well, you already did that one, so we'll do Major League Baseball.
Oh, man, I've been so good for so long. Let's do Major League Baseball.
All right, so Major League Baseball, this one's going to sound a little bit preposterous, but maybe the timing is perfect because if you listen to this station during the week, Common Man is doing his annual preposterous statement tournament.
Did John get on that?
No. We thought he had hope with the 3-goal lead, but I don't think Kevin Fallness went into his corner hard enough. Otherwise, John Carlson could have been the first local participant, probably the first out-of-market participant that the mothership would have adopted. But it's spring training, right? Last time we checked, wins and losses in spring training are meaningless. But buy or sell this. The Twins, over the past week or so, aren't necessarily even having competitive scores. I could care less that they're losing, but they're losing like 12-2 as a regular statement. And they're losing by these big numbers with some guys you're leaning on. Buy or sell that you're at all concerned with the early goings of spring training?
Nope. No, I sell that 100%.
I do too. I was just curious.
Duran's ERA is like 18. I promise you that's not what it's going to be during the season. So, no, and they're literally running pitchers out for an inning. And so one pitcher has a bad inning and it's upside down to the point you're not coming back from because your lineup has got a bunch of guys who you'll never hear of again.
Right.
So
I'll sell it too, and I think anybody with a sports IQ would sell it as well. But this is Minnesota after all, and I'm not saying we're not intelligent sports fans, But as I just said, this is a fan base that loves to be negative. I saw somebody get up in arms because Josh McCown got hired by the Vikings. Well, what the heck did we take that guy for after he did such a great job with Bryce Young? Man, this organization doesn't know what they're doing. There might be merit to some of that, but if you're allowing yourself to get that upset on the 1st of March about a quarterback's coach for your team, you're looking to be disappointed.
So the cynical guy that's sitting across the table from me, Brian, will add this. What are we doing hiring McCown? Well, he was Drake May's quarterback coach in high school. So why wouldn't we go get a high school coach?
But see, you spun the positive, and that's impressive, where I know other people that are just looking for an avenue to get upset, and that's where I'm going with the spring training bit too. I just wondered, granted this conversation is you and I, but I just wondered if there are people out there going, are you watching the Twins lately? It's 15-2 every time we turn around. How can people be excited about this team? It's March 2nd. If they're struggling on May 2nd, let's have another conversation.
Well, and then when it's Willie George Jones the second, like he's been pretty decent, actually. That is pretty close to the person.
The only thing I'll buy for a concern is if you're getting drubbed with the players you have out there, I don't like your minor league system.
Well, I'll take it one step further. Until the veterans are playing five, the veterans aren't playing five, and yet the other team could be throwing out a major league pitcher against single A hitters. So and vice versa. So it doesn't mean anything.
All right, so NFL real quick. This is a teaser because we'll let PA tackle it. There's been a lot of JJ steam recently for the Minnesota Vikings. No, not that one. Buy or sell that JJ McCarthy will end up being a Minnesota Viking.
If they come away in the first round with a quarterback, JJ McCarthy will be a Viking.
I'm curious about all of it. I'll tell you what. Let's go to PA. He's the expert. Done. PA kicks off hour number 2 next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players. Pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.